You carry in every cell the same technology that ancient civilizations used for impossible feats.
Your DNA functions as an antenna between you and the universe. The Egyptians knew this and built pyramids aligned with the stars. The Vedic masters knew this and reached states where thought altered matter. The church destroyed Gnostic manuscripts because they taught this truth. You don't need intermediaries to access the divine, and you are the point where the infinite touches the finite. Today, science timidly confirms your emotions command your genes. Your consciousness collapses possibilities into reality. But you were educated to ignore this power. They taught you that you are small, limited, and mortal. While you accept this hypnosis, people in monasteries heal with their hands, access information beyond time, and manifest the impossible. The difference between them and you, they know what they are. When you close your eyes and feel yourself already living your desired reality, your DNA reconfigures your frequency to manifest that reality. This is not positive thinking. This is consciousness technology.
Humanity lives imprisoned in a collective illusion about its own nature. Billions of people walk the earth believing they are a solution of continuity, merely matter and energy, but there is a hidden truth. The human body is not merely a biological vehicle navigating through space and time. Each pulsating cell carries within itself a technology so advanced that ancient civilizations recognized it as divine, and modern science is only beginning to scratch its surface. Human DNA functions as a cosmic transmitter and receiver. This statement is not a poetic metaphor nor a mystical delusion. It is a verifiable reality that unites the most ancient scrolls from the forgotten libraries of Egypt to the most advanced quantum physics laboratories. The double helix that winds through each cellular nucleus replicates the same spiral geometry of distant galaxies. Coincidence? Mathematics suggests otherwise. Within the human genetic code exist approximately 3 billion base pairs of nitrogenous bases. Materialist science can explain the function of only 2% of this structure. The other 98% have been arrogantly labeled as junk DNA, a term that reveals more about the limitation of the conventional scientific perspective than about the nature of the genetic material itself. Why would evolution, supposedly so efficient at eliminating the unnecessary, maintain 98% of useless material in the command center of every cell? The answer lies in an understanding that transcends the reductionist paradigm. These apparently inactive segments constitute quantum antennas, receivers of cosmic frequencies that operate in dimensions beyond ordinary three-dimensional perception. When you feel an inexplicable intuition, when you experience a synchronicity impossible to explain by statistical probability, when you wake at 3 in the morning with a solution to a problem that had tormented you for weeks, in these moments, your cellular antennas have picked up transmissions from the unified field of consciousness. Quantum physics has unequivocally demonstrated that the observer influences the observed. The double-slit experiment proved that subatomic particles behave differently when observed. If human consciousness can alter the behavior of electrons in a laboratory, imagine the power it exerts over the trillions of atoms that compose the body itself. Each thought generates an electrochemical cascade that travels through the nervous system. Each emotion releases a specific cocktail of neurotransmitters and hormones, but the influence goes far beyond conventional biochemistry. Thoughts and emotions literally alter gene expression. Epigenetics, the study of how external factors modify gene activity without altering the DNA sequence, has destroyed the genetic determinism that imprisoned humanity in the belief of immutable biological destinies. You are not condemned by inherited genes. Consciousness commands biology, not the other way around. This understanding emerges precisely at a critical moment in human evolution. The convergence between ancestral wisdom and cutting-edge science is not accidental. We live in an era of mass awakening, where millennial veils of illusion begin to dissolve. The control matrix that kept humanity ignorant about its true power weakens in the face of the elevation of the collective vibrational frequency. The implications are devastating for the dominant belief system. If each human being is a cosmic antenna capable of tuning into universal frequencies, if DNA responds directly to the commands of consciousness, if thoughts shape physical reality, then the entire edifice of scientific materialism collapses like a house of cards. The pharmaceutical industry, which profits billions by treating symptoms while ignoring vibrational causes. The educational system, which programs young minds to believe in non-existent limitations. The power structures, which depend on a population disconnected from its divine potential. You carry within each cell the same technology that allowed ancient civilizations to build pyramids with impossible mathematical precision, navigate oceans without compasses, and access knowledge about stars invisible to the naked eye. The question is not whether you possess these capacities. The question is when you will decide to activate them. The scrolls found in the underground chambers of Saqqara contain hieroglyphs that conventional Egyptology prefers to ignore. Symbols that describe the human body as a vessel of the stars and the spine as a ladder of light that connects the worlds. The priests of Heliopolis did not perform empty rituals. They operated technologies of consciousness based on the precise alignment between the frequencies of human DNA and cosmic cycles. When they positioned their bodies at specific geometric angles within the pyramid chambers, they were not practicing primitive superstition. They were calibrating their biological antennas to receive transmissions from intelligences that transcend linear space-time. In the Andes Mountains, the descendants of the Incas preserved knowledge that mainstream archaeology categorizes as folklore. They speak of a time when their ancestors communicated telepathically across great distances, utilizing the Shakanas, energetic portals aligned with specific constellations. The Aelis, ancestral Andean communities, organized themselves according to principles of harmonic resonance, where each individual functioned as a node in a network of interconnected consciousness. Their shamans did not ingest power plants merely to have visions. They used them as biochemical amplifiers to expand the bandwidth of DNA reception, accessing frequencies normally blocked by the perceptual filters of ordinary states of consciousness. The Vedas, sacred texts of ancient India over 5,000 years old, describe the concept of Akasha, an etheric field that records every thought, emotion, and action that has ever occurred in the universe. The Vedic rishis claim to access this field through deep meditative states where DNA entered into coherence with what they called the primordial sound, the fundamental vibration that gave rise to all creation. It is no coincidence that the mantra Om, when analyzed spectrographically, produces geometric patterns identical to those found in the molecular structure of DNA. The Gnostic manuscripts discovered at Nag Hammadi reveal a disturbing understanding of human nature. The Gnostics taught that the human being carries within itself a divine spark imprisoned in matter, and that the awakening of this spark allowed one to transcend the limitations of the physical world. They described precise techniques of breathing and visualization that altered patterns of neural activation, creating states of consciousness where it was possible to directly perceive the energetic matrix underlying physical reality. The Catholic Church did not persecute the Gnostics for abstract theological heresy. It eliminated them because they possessed practical knowledge about how to activate human capacities that threaten the entire structure of hierarchical control. The transition to the modern era marks not an advance, but a programmed forgetting. The scientific revolution, by arbitrarily separating matter and consciousness, created an artificial schism in human understanding of reality. Descartes, by proposing mind-body dualism, established the foundations for centuries of alienation of the human being from its multidimensional nature. Newton, by describing the universe as a mechanical machine, provided the reductionist model that still imprisons institutional science. But the cracks in the materialist paradigm have become impossible to ignore. Max Planck discovered that energy does not flow continuously, but in discrete packets called quanta. Einstein demonstrated that matter and energy are interchangeable, that time is not absolute, and that the observer cannot be separated from the observed. Heisenberg mathematically proved that it is impossible to simultaneously know the position and velocity of a particle, the uncertainty principle that destroys any pretension of absolute mechanistic predictability. Quantum mechanics revealed that at the subatomic level, reality behaves in ways that defy all conventional logic. Particles exist in superposition, occupying multiple states simultaneously until observed. The collapse of the wave function occurs at the moment of observation, suggesting that consciousness plays a fundamental role in the crystallization of physical reality. Electrons jump between orbits without traversing the intermediate space. Quantum tunneling that violates the classical laws of physics. The quantum field permeates the entire universe, an ocean of infinite potentiality where virtual particles continuously arise and disappear. This field responds to conscious intention, as demonstrated by experiments where experienced meditators manage to influence random number generators beyond statistical probability. The Institute of Noetic Sciences has documented thousands of cases in which human consciousness affects physical systems in ways that the materialist paradigm cannot explain. What ancient civilizations understood intuitively, quantum physics now confirms empirically. The fundamental reality of the universe is not material, but informational. And human DNA is simultaneously the hardware and the software that processes this cosmic information, translating universal frequencies into localized conscious experience. The double helix of DNA is not a random structure that arose by evolutionary accident. Its spiral geometry precisely replicates the mathematical pattern found in galaxies, in hurricanes, in mollusk shells, and in plant growth. The golden ratio, 1.618, manifests in the helical twist of DNA, the same proportion that governs the arrangement of seeds in the sunflower, the spiral of the Milky Way, and the proportions of the human face. This obsessive recurrence of a specific mathematical pattern across all scales of existence cannot be a statistical coincidence. DNA measures exactly 34 angstroms in length by 21 angstroms in width in each complete cycle of the spiral, numbers from the Fibonacci sequence. The molecule completes one turn every 10 base pairs, creating a geometry that resonates with the fundamental frequencies of the universe. When scientists convert genetic sequences into sound frequencies, they discover perfect musical harmonies. The hemoglobin gene, when translated into sound, produces a melody. The genetic code literally sings. Epigenetics has demolished the central dogma of molecular biology. Genes are not destiny. Above the genetic code exists a layer of control that determines which genes are expressed and which remain silent. Chemical markers called methyl and acetyl groups function as switches, turning genes on and off in response to environmental signals. But the environment is not limited to external physical factors. Thoughts are biochemical events. Emotions are molecular cascades. Consciousness is the primary environment that modulates gene expression. Studies from the HeartMath Institute have demonstrated that coherent emotional states, gratitude, compassion, and love, generate ordered patterns in heart rhythm that directly influence the expression of genes related to the immune system. People who practice meditation regularly have longer telomeres, the protective caps of chromosomes associated with cellular longevity. Chronic stress activates inflammatory genes. Genuine joy activates cellular repair genes. You literally program your biology through the states of consciousness you cultivate. Bruce Lipton, a cellular biologist who spent decades studying stem cells at Stanford, discovered that genetically identical cells develop in completely different ways depending on the chemical environment in which they are cultured. The same genetic code can produce muscle, bone, or fat, depending on the signals it receives. If this is true for individual cells, imagine the implications for the trillions of cells that make up your body, all bathed in the chemical environment created by your thoughts and emotions. DNA responds to specific electromagnetic frequencies. Experiments conducted by Pyotr Gayayev demonstrated that DNA can be reprogrammed by frequencies of light and sound without the need to cut and paste genes. When exposed to certain laser patterns, DNA samples modify their informational structure. Human language, when modulated at specific frequencies, can alter gene expression. The words you speak and think are not mere abstractions. They are vibrational commands that your DNA interprets and executes. The structure of DNA functions as a fractal antenna, capable of receiving and transmitting electromagnetic information. Fractals are geometric patterns that repeat at different scales. Each part contains the information of the whole. This property allows DNA to function as a broadband receiver, simultaneously tuning into multiple cosmic frequencies. When you enter deep meditative states, the electrical activity of the brain synchronizes with the Schumann resonance, the Earth's fundamental frequency at 7.83 Hz. In this state of coherence, DNA accesses information from the planetary morphogenetic field. Biologist Rupert Sheldrake proposed that morphogenetic fields, information fields that organize biological development, transcend conventional space-time. When a rat learns to navigate a maze in London, rats of the same species in Tokyo learn the same maze more quickly, without physical contact. DNA not only receives instructions from the morphogenetic field of the species, but also contributes to the information of this field. Each experience, each learning, each moment of expanded consciousness that you live updates the cosmic database accessible to all humanity. The bridge between consciousness and matter is not metaphorical. It is a technological interface encoded in the very molecular structure that defines life. DNA is simultaneously a receiver that captures the emanations of cosmic consciousness and a transmitter that projects your unique vibrational signature into the unified field. You do not have DNA. You are consciousness expressed through the technology of DNA, actively participating in the symphony of universal creation. What science calls inactive DNA hides the greatest secret of human existence. It is an image for parts of ourselves that remain unused. Think of living in a house with 100 rooms and circulating through only 2, not for lack of keys, but because we were told the others are empty storage spaces. Neville Goddard illuminates this point by stating that the invisible precedes the visible. Everything that appears in the material world is born first as possibility in consciousness. That is, before being fact, it is internal direction, expectation, and meaning. For Goddard, these unvisited rooms are states of consciousness waiting to be assumed. When you close your eyes, see yourself living the desired reality, and feel, with emotional honesty, that this is already true. You are not playing with fantasy. You are activating latent dispositions. Imagination, in this reading, does not create from nothing. It awakens what exists in potential, gives form to what is already present as a seed, and organizes your energy, your attention, and your choices around what you have decided to sustain internally. Thomas Troward complements this vision by saying that the human being is the point where the infinite becomes finite, where the universal mind individualizes without separating from the whole. In each person, there would be reservoirs of possibility, like seeds planted in sacred soil. These seeds do not sprout by chance. They respond to the heat of conscious focus, to the water of coherent and elevated emotions, and to the light of a spiritual understanding that gives meaning to the process. Without these three conditions, the seed remains a seed. With them, it finds the environment to germinate. What we call miracles can be understood then as activation of rarely accessed potentials. Unexpected healings, children who demonstrate abilities not yet framed by conventional models, people who reveal extreme strength in limit situations. All this, in this approach, does not suspend natural laws. It points to layers of law still little perceived, deeper regularities that operate beyond the usual reach of our attention. It is not the denial of nature, but an invitation to expand what we understand as natural. The so-called law of vibration summarizes this functioning in an operational way. Everything vibrates, and similar states tend to group together. You do not observe life from the outside, as if you were before a stage. You are part of the scene. Sustained fear tends to align experiences that confirm this reading of the world. Gratitude practiced with constancy tends to tune into events compatible with abundance and care. This is not a motivational slogan, but a proposal about how the quality of consciousness participates in the weaving of events. Emotions function as tuning forks that define the frequency at which you act and perceive. Anger is not just feeling bad, it reorganizes your field of attention, your body language, and the decisions you consider possible. Love is not just an intimate experience, it aggregates, harmonizes, and facilitates cooperation and healing. In practical terms, each emotional state emits patterns that interfere with other patterns, shaping probabilities and paths that you see, and therefore the events toward which you move. Regarding interconnection, the image of quantum entanglement is useful as a metaphor. In physics, certain particles remain correlated in such a way that changes at one point are reflected in the other without depending on distance. Here, this idea serves to illustrate subtle links between beings and experiences, not as a technical description of human relationships. The central point is, beyond the common sense of separation, there are networks of meaning and influence of which we are normally not aware. The fabric of which we are part is more continuous than it seems. In this way, you are connected to every person you have met, to every place that has marked you, to every relevant experience. These links do not dissolve. They become discrete threads of a web of relationships that remains active. When someone thinks of you with intensity, you often perceive it. When you send an intention of care to someone distant, something moves, even without explicit consciousness. Separation, in this perspective, is a useful hypothesis for operating in everyday life, but incomplete for explaining the totality of what is lived. The solidity of matter can be seen, then, as an organized appearance. At fundamental levels, physics describes probabilistic behaviors, the electron as a cloud of possibilities that acquires a definite location when measured. Taken as an analogy, this image says, reality is not a fixed block awaiting inspection. It is a field of potentialities that allow themselves to be selected by attention. The conscious gaze not only registers, it highlights, delimits, and gives contour to what becomes experience. Observing, therefore, is a creative act. At each instant, your attention chooses, among many possible variations, the one that will gain relief. You navigate an ocean of possibilities, and consciousness is the rudder that defines the course. The universe does not simply happen to you, it happens through you. It responds to the silent commands of the expectations you sustain with consistency and, therefore, tends to mirror externally what you have consolidated internally. Conscious manifestation operates through precise laws that govern the interface between consciousness and matter. The observer effect reveals that consciousness determines the collapse of the wave function, transforming quantum potentiality into physical reality. When you deliberately align your intentions with specific frequencies of the unified field, you are utilizing principles that mystics knew intuitively and quantum physics now confirms. You program the quantum field through vibrational commands that, through resonance, produce corresponding results. The mechanism works through resonant harmony. Your focused intentions generate interference patterns in the quantum field that magnetize similar energetic configurations. Like a vibrating tuning fork makes other tuning forks at the same frequency resonate spontaneously. Your sustained thoughts and emotions attract experiences that vibrate in the same tune. Those who manifest consistently have mastered, consciously or not, the art of maintaining vibrational coherence between intention, emotion, and expectation. When you vividly sustain a specific reality in your consciousness, the brain activates the same neural circuits it would activate if the experience were physical. Neurologically, imagining with complete sensory intensity and physically experiencing are identical processes. The same neurotransmitters flow, the same brain regions light up. The body responds biologically to the imagined reality, sending cascades of information through DNA, activating genes that reconfigure your electromagnetic signature to match the frequency of the visualized experience. The human morphogenetic field maintains a record of each expansion of consciousness. When Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile barrier, dozens of other runners achieved the same feat in the following months. The human body did not suddenly evolve. The informational field that defines the limits of the possible was updated. Each personal transcendence you achieve adds new information to the collective database of the species, making it easier for others to access similar states of expansion. These understandings radically transform our relationship with health and disease. If thoughts and emotions modulate gene expression, if consciousness orchestrates biology, then physical imbalances often originate in vibrational dissonances. Cancer cells arise when they lose communication with the body's organizing field, usually after unintegrated emotional traumas create zones of energetic incoherence. Autoimmune diseases manifest internal conflict in the theater of the body, the immune system mirroring patterns of psychic self-aggression. The predominant medical model focuses on suppressing symptoms through chemical interventions, treating consequences while ignoring vibrational causes. Antidepressants artificially alter neurotransmitters without addressing the thought patterns that generated the imbalance. Chemotherapy poisons cells that have lost attunement with the whole, without restoring the communicational harmony that would prevent recurrences. The body is approached as a defective machine needing repair, not as a conscious system seeking rebalancing. Relationships reveal themselves as vibrational dances, where each participant magnetizes experiences that mirror their internal frequency. Repetitive patterns in relationships do not arise by chance. They are precise magnetic attractions between complementary frequencies. Recurring abandonment resonates with frequencies of self-abandonment. External betrayal mirrors the internal betrayal of authentic aspects of being. Each significant person in your journey functions as a catalyst, activating latent frequencies that seek recognition and integration. The collective dimension of this vibrational reality implies cosmic responsibility. Your consciousness emanations do not remain contained in an isolated personal field. Through quantum entanglement, each sustained thought, each cultivated emotion, propagates through the human morphogenetic field. When you vibrate in fear, you add fear to the collective psychic atmosphere. When you resonate in compassion, you elevate the frequency available to all humanity. There is no truly private thought at the quantum level. Institutions built on the materialist paradigm naturally resist these revelations. Universities are structured in the compartmentalization of knowledge. Governmental systems are based on hierarchies of external power. Religions that position the divine as separate and distant. Media that amplifies frequencies of separation and conflict. Each structure faces obsolescence in a world where human beings recognize their creative nature. Researchers exploring consciousness phenomena frequently encounter institutional barriers. Studies on telepathy, precognition, and distance healing, phenomena widely documented but marginalized by academia. Doctors integrating vibrational approaches face hostile medical boards. Educators teaching children to access expanded states of consciousness confront rigid educational systems. Simultaneously, the awakening accelerates exponentially. Millions experience spontaneous activations of capacities once considered extraordinary. Children demonstrate natural telepathic abilities before social programming suppresses them. Synchronicities multiply beyond probabilistic explanations. Healings considered impossible become frequent. The Earth itself raises its vibrational frequency, catalyzing transformations in all beings attuned to its rhythms. The present moment represents an evolutionary crossroads. Humanity transits between paradigms, the old materialist model fragmenting while a holistic understanding emerges. Resisting this transition generates increasing dissonance. Embracing it accelerates the activation of latent potentials encoded in human DNA for millennia, waiting precisely for this moment of collective maturation to awaken. The journey through the veils that hide your true nature reaches the inflection point. From the underground libraries of Egypt to particle accelerators, from Andean shamanic ceremonies to electron microscopes that reveal the helical dance of DNA, all evidence converges on a truth that the system has worked tirelessly to hide. You are not an accidental product of random mutations. You are conscious technology, a biological antenna tuned to cosmic frequencies that materialist science does not yet possess instruments to measure. The synthesis between ancestral wisdom and quantum physics is not a temporal coincidence. It occurs precisely when humanity reaches the critical threshold of consciousness necessary to understand its paradoxical nature, simultaneously wave and particle, local and non-local, finite and infinite. The DNA that pulses in your cells is not just biological code. It is cosmic language, sacred geometry, crystallized in molecular form, the same golden proportion that structures galaxies, encoded in the spiral staircase that connects matter and consciousness. Consider the magnitude of what has been revealed. 98% of your genetic structure, dismissively labeled as evolutionary refuse, actually constitutes a vast library of unmanifested potentials. Capacities that the ancients called divine, telepathy, spontaneous regeneration, access to non-local information fields, lie dormant within you, awaiting the correct vibrational frequency to awaken. You carry within each cell the technology that lost civilizations used to build impossible monuments and navigate between dimensions. Quantum entanglement demonstrates that you are perpetually connected to everything you have ever touched, everyone you have ever met, and every experience you have lived. Your emotions are not private psychological events. They are vibrational transmissions that propagate through the morphogenetic field, influencing collective reality. When you elevate your frequency through coherent states of consciousness, you make it easier for others to access similar frequencies. When you succumb to fear and separation, you add density to the collective field that keeps humanity imprisoned in limitation. Epigenetics proves definitively that you are not condemned by genetic inheritance. Your thoughts command the expression of your genes. Your emotions orchestrate the molecular symphony that determines health or disease, vitality or degeneration. The observer collapses the wave function. Your consciousness selects which reality, among infinite quantum possibilities, crystallizes into physical experience. You are not at the mercy of external forces. You are the creative force expressed in human form. This knowledge carries cosmic responsibility. Each moment of consciousness represents a choice to perpetuate the patterns of limitation that keep humanity in collective sleep, or to activate the frequencies of awakening that catalyze the evolution of the species. There is no neutrality in this choice. To remain passive is equivalent to consenting to the paradigm of disempowerment. To ignore your creative nature is to waste the divine potential encoded in your cellular structure. The current moment in human history no longer allows the luxury of feigned ignorance. The acceleration of the Schumann frequency, the thinning of the veil between dimensions, the mass awakening of capacities once considered paranormal, all signal that humanity approaches an evolutionary quantum leap. Those who resist this transition will experience increasing dissonance. Those who embrace it will discover capacities that transcend the limitations previously accepted as absolute. The fundamental question remains: will you continue functioning as an antenna tuned to frequencies of fear, scarcity, and separation imposed by control systems? Or will you consciously recalibrate your tuning to resonate with the frequencies of creation, abundance, and unity that are your cosmic inheritance? The power has always been in your hands. DNA has always responded to your consciousness commands. The only variable is whether you choose to exercise this power or remain in the comfortable illusion of powerlessness. Every change begins with understanding your role as a co-creator, and the only way to connect with this divine intelligence is through meditation. We have developed a set of audio tools to help you access this higher state of consciousness. To learn more and get immediate access, click on the link on the screen or in the comments. If this video resonated with you, write in the comments, "It made sense to me."